Take the air if you're even taking
A very good evening. You are welcome to the Sugar Club. Thank you very much for joining us on the evening where Shamrock Rovers are probably going to win the league. Okay, I was just trying to see, is it a tepid sort of Shamrock Rovers supporting here tonight? Are all the fans here? Are all the fans at the game? Do we have many Rovers fans in tonight? That's exactly what we want to hear. That's not what you want to hear. Right, so what we've got planned tonight, it's going to be a bit of a celebration of the year that was, with thanks to our friends in Rockshore who have supported our League of Ireland coverage all season long. So later we are going to be celebrating the Athlone Town double winners in terms of the Women's Premier Division and the Women's FAI Cup. We're going to have Kayleigh Shine and Chloe Singleton with us, and the pieces of bling that they've won over the last couple of weeks are going to be with us up on stage in the second part of the show. We'll take an intermission before that. Before the break, we're going to get Vinny Perth up on stage with us as well to look ahead to the Cup final in a couple of weeks, to lay out the final weekend of the League of Ireland Premier Division. But first, we have the man with the most European appearances by any League of Ireland player in history. 7 League of Ireland Premier Division titles and 2 FAI Cups. Give a big warm welcome to Ronan Finn. And former manager of Drogheda, St. Pat's and Cork City, Tim Clancy, everyone. Ronan, your season just ended last night with UCD. How's the body? How was the season overall for you?
Yeah, unfortunately ended last night. Playoffs against Bray over the 2 legs, just didn't do enough. Good young group at UCD. Probably just a bit inconsistent throughout the whole course of the season. Dundalk, in the end, won the league quite well. So for us, it was playoffs. And yeah, over the 2 legs, didn't do enough. Personally, had a bad injury throughout the year, just tore a tendon in my hamstring, so that took me quite a while to get over. Now I'm back fit now, and unfortunately season's coming to an end. But that's the way it goes. I've been lucky enough throughout my career with, the lack of injuries in this year, not so much.
Yeah, it gives you a great appetite, I presume, for next year, because obviously you're signed up to go again with UCD next season.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, I'm doing a master's there, so I have another year to go. So I'll finish up in college next July, which will coincide with last season potentially in League of Ireland. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Your own performance level this season, when you have been on the pitch, by all accounts, still holding up to your high standards?
Yeah, no, I love UCD. I started UCD as a 17-year-old, so it's a great place. And when I was leaving Rovers, that was in my head, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back. I always wanted to go back and finish my education. And it's always been a good place for me. I love the people out there. It's good. It's a good ethos around. They try and do things the right way. They try and play football the right way. And they've constantly produced good players, into the league, which have gone on further. And if I could be a small part of that development, yeah, that was part of the plans. But, still looking to, still competitive, still trying to play.
For sure. It's a brilliant full circle moment in your career. And we will, in a couple of moments, go back to the start of your playing days, because I'm really interested in how both of your experiences are quite different, actually, in terms of your early playing days. Like, you both had experiences in the UK. Tim, obviously, you had a great stint in Scotland for a number of years, but your life in England actually began in Millwall, right?
Yeah, I just want to go back to the introduction I got there compared to finish.
Yeah.
It's fucking shite, wasn't it? No, yeah.
How many European appearances do you have?
Fuck all. None to talk about anyway. No, look, yeah, I went over to Millwall, had sort of a link with Belvo at the time. And I went over as an 18-year-old, having spent 5 years at Belvo. And look, I'm the 7th child of 8 in a family, so I was used to older brothers and sisters moving out at 18 to go to college, whatever else. So I think it was just natural progression that I moved at 18, and I think there was 11 other Irish lads at the club when I was there, which is brilliant for settling in. It's brutal for fitness and professionalism, but yeah, look, it was an eye opener to go from Trim, which is about 7,000 people, to the middle of London.
Who were the other Irish players at Millwall at that point?
The first team, there was Robbie Ryan, there was Richie Sadler, Kevin Grogan was there, funny little fella, was at UCD.
Yeah, Kevin, yeah.
He went there after Man United. There was Mark Quigley, Barry Cogan, there was a lot of young Irish lads as well. Kevin Braniff, who had a good career up the north. Joe McDonald, there was a few lads from Belfast there as well, so it was carnage.
Were you a click?
Oh, stop. It was worse than that, like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just like Monday club, Tuesday club sort of thing. But I suppose you're playing twice a week with Millwall anyway.
Well, look, it was mental. You're thinking back now, obviously things have changed massively 20-something years later, but yeah, there was a few stories that probably can't be told here.
I mean, by all means, we're off air tonight. I mean, there will be a lot of editing done if we need to do the editing afterwards. By all means, bring them in. So, at what stage during your Millwall career do you realise actually it might not have a future for you, or London might not be the place for you?
I kicked the wing mirror off a coach's car after having a fallout with him. So
Really?
yeah, there was a backstory there that I can't go into, but I was.
Why not?
I'd swooned. But no, I was being brought in as a 20-year-old to train with the under-15s and just ran around, like, told to run, whatever else, and they wanted me to explode one day, and I ended up booting his wing mirror off, and I was released the next day.
Oh my God, that's one way to go. So obviously there was a good bit of a division there between yourself and that coach.
No, look, I was nowhere near championship level at that time. When I joined the club, they just lost the playoff semi-final against Birmingham.
Right.
Remember, there was riots after the game, and I think 8,000 of their fans got life bans or something. So they had a very good team, in fairness. I was nowhere near that level. So a couple of years afterwards, they were in the FA Cup final as well against Man United. That was the time when I was there as well. So they had a very good team, and I wasn't anywhere near the level at that stage anyway. So naturally enough, I wasn't. We were talking about earlier, Finn, about being athletic and big and strong, and it just wasn't good enough, to be honest with you. So I sort of knew fairly well out that I wasn't going to be making a career there. Like.
Yeah, okay, we'll come to the Scotland thing in a minute, but Ronan, your own time in England comes at a similar enough age when you're 15, 16, or potentially even younger when you're going over for trials?
Yeah, probably like Tim, like a lot of young players, you go on trials mad. Like I remember going as a 12-year-old over to Denmark with Peterborough United, and I don't think that stuff happens anymore. Like, I think there's certain rules now. You can't be released over a certain age, and that was it. Was pack your bags over to, a club in the UK and playing with a new team, going to Denmark for a week with a new team, then coming back. And remember, like staying in the kid's house that night. That one of the teammates, I was flying back to Dublin the next morning, like going into his bathroom and crying. I just wanted to go home. At that stage, it was 12. It was a long time, for me as a kid. So I get now how rules have changed and things like that, because it is you can put players off, but a lot of players, it was part of a stigma. You just wanted to go on trials. That was like part of like growing up, who's going on trials, what players are going where. And then my club, St. Kevin's Boys, we had a league with Peterborough United, and then naturally I would have went over to Peterborough a lot. The academy fell apart in Peterborough through Barry Fry. And then we would have then moved to Cambridge United. So all my teammates, everybody at the academy moved to Cambridge United. I then signed a 3-year contract with Cambridge, but I was still training in Dublin because I was doing my leaving cert. I wasn't allowed to leave school. Parents, family wanted me to stay and just do my leaving. And I would fly over after school on a Friday, get an afternoon flight, maybe 2-3 o'clock, get a half-day school, play a match Saturday morning. And it was great because you're playing against, Cambridge United, we had a really good side, so you're playing against, really high level of football, higher than what you'd play here. Done that for a year. Then as the year went on, obviously I needed to study more, but they wanted me over more. And I was actually training with UCD, and then there was a kind of, because I obviously had to train with clubs in Dublin. And then I just started hearing about the scholarship system that was available. Long story short, spoke to Cambridge. They weren't too happy about it because they'd obviously invested time, money into bringing me over, and the plan was that, you'd eventually go over and live there. But the UCD scholarship was, at that stage, I cancelled my contract at Cambridge United, and I went and signed for UCD and started a scholarship there.
Clearly, like the best decision that you could have made at that time, but I presume the temptation of growing in England as a young fellow would have been fairly overwhelming at that point. You must have had good advice from people back here to actually say, you got to think about your education in Ireland. Yeah,
it was education, but it was also like, do you have the stomach for it? Like, and probably at that age, I probably didn't, like any time I was over there, maybe partly you wanted to be home, I did enjoy it. I loved the football element of it. I loved, and on my last few weeks, I do a lot of fishing, and I found a lake, so I used to bring my fishing gear over. So things like that, you needed a distraction. That's why a lot of stories, people kids turn to gambling, things like that. Who's to know? Listen, in the end, I came back and education is the route I went down. And I suppose my League of Ireland, I never really went back to England. I went back on a couple of trials, during my Rovers days early. But other than that, it was, my league. It was 19 years in League of Ireland, really.
Tim, going back to your own story, you obviously head up to Scotland after that to continue your career in Britain. So it's 7 years in Scotland, all told. The managers that you work with, the list of characters is incredible. Like even Kilmarnock alone, Kenny Shields and Jim Jeffries are two of your managers there.
Yeah, Jim Jeffries was a strange one. He's like real dour face and angry looking man. He managed Bradford in the Premier League. Some of the stories there we heard, like one of the players they took, the captain of Killie was Gary Locke, and they took him from Hearts to Bradford and brought him to Kilmarnock, brought him back to Hearts. I think they fucking adopted him in the end. But he told us about when Jim was at Bradford, and he had Benito Carboni and Stan Collymore, and these were lads coming from Hearts, which would have been lower level or whatever. And Collymore drove in and parked straight across the manager and the assistant manager's spot in the car park by the front door. And the assistant manager, Billy Brown, said to him, "That's 500 quid fine." And he goes, "Is it? Yeah. Tell us when it gets to 30 grand, will you?" And just that was it. So then Jim was coming into our dressing room, and it was just madness. Like some of the stuff he was coming out with, it was good. Like it was enjoyment. Really enjoyable time for me playing up with Scotland. And I think, look, for me, without being disrespectful to myself, the ability that I had to be able to go and play in front of 15,000, 60,000 at Ibrox and Celtic Park was I was quite happy to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Was there particular hostility towards you as an Irishman when you go to Ibrox, or was there just so many Irish in the Scottish League anyway that you didn't really stand out?
I tell you what, Kenny Shields actually, and Kenny's actually a Protestant from the north, funnily enough, and he's tragedy in his own family but during the Troubles. But I can remember at Ibrox, Kenny was mad, by the way, absolutely mental. Brilliant fella, but he was mad. And in the warm-up at Ibrox, one day he goes, "Come on, let's start playing Gaelic." And I looked at him and I said, "He's soloing. He's the manager of the team, running down the pitch soloing, hand-passing the players in front of the crowd. First off, none of the Rangers fans knew what Gaelic was anyway. They just looked at this fella and go, "He's absolutely mental." Well, that's like Kenny was doing stuff like that. He led on. He had a degree in psychology, which he didn't. Yeah. So every time he'd done a press conference, he'd say something, and the journalist would spend a fucking week trying to dissect it. And most of the time it was just waffle talk. But no, Kenny was brilliant, in fairness, and he came back then. He'd done well at Derry, and obviously had a stint with the Northern Irish women's team as well. So, but yeah, look, you'd meet certain characters throughout the time in the game, and it's no difference what Ronan saying as well. It's plenty of funny times throughout the times.
At Hibs, Terry Butcher was your manager at one stage, which I had no idea he managed Hibs at all. I've got no recollection of this period of his career. You obviously do.
You couldn't meet a bigger prick if you tried, to be honest with you. Being brutally honest with you, he came in the door like the England captain, bandage around the head, blood all over me, thought brilliant. We had a decent enough team at Hibs at the time. And Pat Fennan left, and I think we were 5th in the league when Terry Butcher came in. I remember the first day we done shape, unopposed shape, and it was like the hurricane going through Jamaica at the minute. It was horrific, right? And came to Kevin Thompson, who was a brilliant footballer, played for Rangers, Middlesbrough. Get on it, we pass it, unbelievable player, and Tomo got in, put one around the corner to the front man, stop. See when it comes to you, hook it into the channel. And I can remember, the weather was horrific. Tomo did it, and it went 20 yards behind the goal, and he just started shouting, "Play on." There's no opposition around, so the winger had to run 30 yards off the pitch, crossed it in from behind the goal, and someone headed into an empty net. I remember walking off after going, "We're in trouble here," but it was brutal, and again, from straight away he walked into a dressing room, you go, England captain, you have a lot of respect for him, but that went after about 12 minutes, I'd say.
Okay, so was he big on living off his ego as Terry Butcher is the man with the bandage?
Yeah, I think they had himself and Maurice Malpass was the assistant. They had this hard man image.
Right.
There's a young lad they put on in the 79th minute away in Ross County, and the kid was as honest as the days long. Ross Caldwell, his name was, and he's a hard worker. That's what he was. And they took him off in the 88th minute, saying that he wasn't working hard enough, and that's all the kid had. And he was only 18 at the time. And as he walked off, Butcher went to shake his hand and he slapped it away and walked into the dressing room. Like, so everyone was like, right, what's going to happen here? And big scuffle afterwards. And the young lad now, in fairness, he stood there and everyone was holding the assistant manager back and he goes, let go of him. I bet you he doesn't do anything. And everyone was like, right, and they let go of him. He ran up and stopped. And the young lad goes, fucking knew it. And straight away that bubble was burst after a few games that these are tough guys you don't mess with, when practically an academy player more or less called him out in front of the dressing room and he didn't do anything. Like,
Wow, that's really interesting.
now,
So,
I'll add, the young lad never played again for Hibs after
of course, yeah. So the tough guy stuff was a bit of a veneer?
It's all bullshit, like.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I presume there was no real notable success in his managerial career, because, again, nothing's kind of coming to mind with regards to, he managed the Philippines national team maybe at one stage, but...
Yeah, look, I think he had Sunderland at one stage.
Yes.
He'd Melbourne or someone over in Australia. I think Dwight
Yeah.
York said he was the worst manager he ever had as well. So
Right.
he's have something in common with Dwight York. Anyway.
Yeah. From your time in Scotland, which was what was like your best sort of achievement? I think you came like best of the rest at one stage in terms of, I guess, coming first after the old firm.
Yeah. That was Motherwell. Stuart McCall was the manager then, and listen, he played for Everton and Rangers in Scotland. And again, the video with him, the most famous one, probably the career he's had is brilliant, is when Bradford stayed up and he tried to get up on top of the car and fell off.
Yeah.
He was on Soccer EM every other week and he hated that video. But yeah, that season we didn't have a big budget. I was surplus to requirements at Kilmarnock and they brought me in. I ended up playing 30 odd games that season, and we just had a really good team. And we ended up finishing third in the league. It was when Rangers went bust. So Motherwell actually ended up getting the second Champions League qualifying spot. So that was probably the most enjoyable time that season. And then I decided to leave and go to Hibs.
Yeah. Ronan, for yourself, I mean, that story there of Terry Butcher, it's incredible how you can almost break a person in one instance. Obviously, that young academy fella managed to fight back fairly well. You had decent enough experiences with regards to coaches during your time in England. Like you mentioned earlier, when you talk about Dan Ashworth as a decent gaffer at underage level for you.
Yeah, well, when I was at Cambridge and with Peter first, Dan was my under-12s manager. And then Dan was part of the staff that graduated to go to Cambridge United. Yeah, Dan, listen, did I know he was going to become CEO of the English FA now, or director of Manchester United? No, Dan was just a brilliant football brain, just a young coach at that stage. And I ended up going on to have a brilliant career. Probably not so much on the pitch, went behind the scenes, went kind of down the technical director route, obviously well educated, and you know, has obviously done a good job in the FA.
Obviously brought into the hierarchy at Manchester United a couple of years ago. Didn't go his way. It seemed that maybe Jim Radcliffe was the worst thing that happened to him at the club. It seemed that he had a bit about him, but maybe United was just a bit of a mess during his time there.
Yeah, like I know he was at Newcastle prior
Yeah.
to that, and I think there was a massive outcry to get him bought out of his contract. I don't know if there's many technical directors that have been bought out of contract to come in to in the clubs, but yeah, listen, I think it's well documented that United have had their troubles. So yeah, whether Dan was obviously the big saviour and it just didn't quite happen for him. Listen, it's a huge club. There's a lot of elements that we could discuss here tonight, but Dan, he'll get back into football, no doubt. Like he's been at West Brom, he's been in the English FA. You know, he's decorated career.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, for yourself, was there a moment during your playing days that you knew, I want to become a manager?
No, not really. I've done the coaching badges sort of. Again, it's probably the complete opposite road that I went down than Ronan did. I didn't have anything to fall back on at all. Like there was no forward thinking. My leaving cert wasn't exactly brilliant. So I couldn't go to. I think I could get into fish farming in Athlone. Was the only course I could get into. So you probably could have done that. Do you like tail fishing? But no. So it sort of natural progression was to try and go into coaching, and ideally that's what I would have rather have done, is maybe be a coach for a couple of years and learn and assistant manager and go that route. But I got a phone call sitting on the floor in my sitting room just about 3 weeks before Christmas with a box of roses open. And I didn't like them pre-seasons in January, like, and I remember I was offered the job, and I just said, like, I don't know anything about the league or anything in the first division. And the missus just says, well, what are you doing your badges for then? And so take it, like, and look, I just dived in straight away. I was only 33 when I retired to take the draw at a gig, and it was probably a good time to take it. They'd just been relegated. So it was something completely fresh, and look, we were able to build for a few years. Probably the most important person that got in was Kev, as my assistant manager. He had a bit of experience with Shells in the first division, and we had 4 good seasons there, and obviously Kev's gone on now and taken it to the next level the last 4 years.
Was Drogheda your League of Ireland team growing up?
No, Shells was actually.
Okay,
Used to go up to Talc on a Friday. Back in the 90s, would have got up with my dad to plenty of games because I played for Belva as well, which is only around the corner. We used to go up and watch. Remember Richie and Desi Baker were both there at the same time, and Mark Rutherford and Simon Gagan was up top at some stages as well. So yeah, there was loads of like good players back then, and that's the team we used to go and watch was Shells.
What was your team growing up?
My dad was from Longford, so Vinny here. Longford Town was kind of
Nice.
within the household, but then never really was a, I remember going to Tolka Park on European nights, seeing Shells play Rosenborg, John Carew playing. Never really went to League of Ireland games, unfortunately. Obviously, just wasn't a fan. In a sense, obviously Longford Town was the household club. I wasn't going down there. So no, I never really bought into it that much as a kid, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I suppose when you're playing for Rovers, as long as you do develop the same level of love and the sort of point of view that every sort of dyed-in-the-wool Shamrock Rovers fan would have. Like, I presume if somebody mentions Bose to you and stuff like that, you'd have the same visceral reaction that a lot of the lifetime fans would have, right?
Yeah, and one thing that I would say is growing up, I knew Rovers more than anybody in the sense that there was the most, even where I'm from the north side, there was a lot of Shamrock Rovers fans around. So that was one element that, for me growing up, Rovers was always, whether, it is or not, I feel it is, it's the biggest club in Ireland. And that was kind of known to me from a schoolboy growing up, but never had a brilliant, I remember playing against Shamrock Rovers, never had a brilliant academy, brilliant underage system, but they were always the biggest club. Even for me, from Northside kid, there was that element that Rovers was always the one. Yeah.
And we will chat with Vinny very shortly about Rovers this season and I guess what we're expecting from the cup final on Sunday week. But just before we get Vinny up, Tim, we should just chat a little bit about Cork City this season and your own experience. Obviously, it's probably feels like ancient history at this point. It's been 5-6 months at this point since you've stopped that commute. Do you feel happy or do you feel rested since leaving the job?
Yeah, look, I think this season was difficult. I just looked at the circumstances. I was doing a lot of travelling, which wasn't easy. I thought we were brilliant the first 15 games. It's sort of gone downhill since then, but no, only messing. No, look, it was difficult. We had a squad put together at the start of the season that was heavily influenced by how good the front 4 or 5 would be. I think after the Fort League game, all 4 of them were out injured. With Keats, I think he was the 6th game he got injured, actually, Shawnee Maguire, Carl O'Sullivan, and then Malik Tricksteel as well. So we probably had to change completely how we played. And look, I think how the season's gone for them in one-off games, I think they still have a lot of quality on the pitch, and it'll have to be, if they've any chance in the final against Rovers, I think they'll have to defend very well and just make sure they're efficient with whatever opportunities they get.
Were you commuting the whole time or were you staying down in Cork for a little bit of it?
No, I'd stay down some nights of the week, but a lot of it was commuting. This year, like, the living arrangement sort of changed, where I would have had to share with maybe a player or two as well, which, look, you can't be doing that as a manager.
No.
And then my assistant manager went back to Scotland as well. It was difficult getting someone else in. So just in general, it was quite a difficult spell. And then when I'm travelling as well, we set up a new business, myself and my wife, opened a gym in Trim. So yeah, it was a lot going on, and look, you have to take priority, which is the family as well, and that's sort of what I looked at.
What was the dynamic like living with a couple of players?
Look, I was living with Greg, who was sort of a player coach, but he wasn't really doing a lot of coaching. He was concentrating on playing, so he's still in the dressing room with all the players and all that. And then I think when Keats done his Achilles, another player was sort of had to move into the house, and I don't think they did in the end. And I just said, look, I'm not doing that, like living with people I don't even know.
Yeah.
And especially players as well, like it's just difficult.
Yeah, awkward. Like, what are you
is,
talking
yeah.
about at breakfast, like when you're about to go into a big team meeting?
Well, that's the other side of it as well. It's just like, it's good as well to have, obviously, people there you can bounce ideas off and that, but you can have them conversations at the ground. Like, it's not right for players either, putting them in an awkward position as well.
When it comes to the unrest that's bubbling away in terms of the fans at the moment, do you feel a lot of sympathy for the protests that are going on at the club?
I think if you ask anybody in the League of Ireland, Cork City is a huge club, but they're miles away from having the resources that the huge clubs in the country have now. If you look at Shamrock Rovers, you look at Bows, you look at Derry, Pats, Shells are even pushing the budget higher. There's a massive gulf in maybe the top 5 or 6 teams and the budgets they have, and the bottom 5. And Cork City would see themselves as one of the top clubs in the country, which I think they are. The fan base, when things are going well down there, is brilliant. But unfortunately, financially, they're not in the position to be challenging Rovers or Derry or Pats, Bows, Shells, them type of teams. And that's why there's a lot of frustration down there, I think.
Is there a sense that they should be challenging them, like from the fan base?
Well, I think they want to see progress, I think, and you see there was relegation a good few years ago, and then it took them a few years to get back out of the league. There's an automatic relegation again, and then we got back out of the league, and there's an automatic relegation again. So I don't think that they're seeing any progress, and that's probably, if they've seen like a consolidated season where they finished 7th or 8th, nowhere near the relegation, maybe not nowhere near Europe, and then see progression in next year, I could see that it could maybe build, but they don't really have that. Maybe this cup, if they can win the cup in a couple of weeks, that might be seen as a little bit of progression as well, and it might sort of ease the tensions a little bit.
And then I think a lot of the fans are upset with the price of tickets as well, apparently the most expensive in the league. Is it fair enough that they're complaining about that when they don't have the results? Maybe they'd be happy enough to pay for the tickets if they were top of the table?
Yeah, possibly. I think you want, if you're paying the most as a League of Ireland fan in the country, you're going to want the best product on the pitch as well, and I don't think they were getting that. And again, I think like ticket pricing, I think, is something that you want to see progression in the league, and you can understand revenue is a massive part of it, but what you don't want is to turn fans away, especially ones like, there's many deprived areas in Cork as well, and I think if a mother had to pay for 3 of her teenage kids going to football, and there mightn't be a lot of money in the house, and she's going to have to fork out 60 odd quid just for the tickets alone or whatever it is, it's a hard sell. Like, it's
deep, and like given the football culture that exists in the city, it's a really delicate balancing act there. You're kind of responsible for bringing in the younger people into the club, and presumably the future on that front is in jeopardy at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's what you want. You'd probably rather have a motto of take a hit financially and get more fans into the ground. Because them kids, you look at Drogheda, I mean, I can remember when I first took over Drogheda, the 45 ultras or whatever they were at the far side, they were all kids, and now they're like in their early 20s and that, and they're creating an unbelievable atmosphere. If you look at the flares and the banners, I know Mark doesn't like the flares going off, but everyone else in the league does. But if you look at the atmosphere that they create up there, but they're all now young men, and they're the ones that are going to be driving the TIFO last year and the cup final and everything else going, and they're the future of the club. But I think what Drogheda done very well a few years ago was they got them on side for very little money, and they end up becoming the future of the club.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to bring another man up on stage here, a 2-time FAI Cup winner as a player, and of course a Premier Division champion as a manager. Vinny Perth, everyone. Vinny, you're very welcome. You know the two lads very well.
Just about.
Yeah. Will we start with Tim? What's the sort of relationship here?
Start with the easy one, Ronan.
Okay, fair enough. Go first. You coach Ronan.
Yeah, Ronan. Actually, Ronan has played 63 times in Europe, and if you know Ronan, like Sean Gannon is on 63 as well. Something you failed to mention on.
Oh, you're tied.
You're tied.
Oh, I didn't realize.
I think that kills Ronan.
Okay.
In a good way, because Gannon is about to overtake him in the next week or two. So,
Okay, I'll speak to Joey.
I'd say you'll have to speak to Joey and try and get Gannon left out of the plane.
Your intro's shite now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, seriously, like I was lucky enough to have Ronan. I was only the coach there, but he came into us, and Richie Towle had sort of was still there, but was coming to the end. But when Ronan came in, we got him from Shamrock Rovers, and I think a lot of the good teams or the great teams always need somebody. Like we brought in Darryl Horgan, I remember, and it just gives you another kick. It kicks you on, and it sort of pushes the dressing room on. I think when we brought Ronan in, it it was massive in terms of what he did on the pitch. In terms of the positional sense, we needed one more player in that midfield. He gave us all of that, but also the one thing to give Ronan a compliment, and Tim will know this from managing, is there's some players you need that cross the voids, and not that you have a dressing room full of cliques, but there's always different sections and people sit with each other. And what Ronan was great at, he sort of crossed them divides, and he would get on with certain groups. And we had a Dundalk group, and he was close to a lot of them. We had a group who travelled up from Dublin every day, and he'd be close to them. And then he'd still have to mind people like Gano as well on a daily basis. But the way he crossed the divide, and it's funny, now that Ronan is a little bit older and sort of watching the game differently, he might actually appreciate, you see the sort of difference in people, you see it from afar. And I remember once, you won't even remember this, it was down in, we were playing actually Athlone on the day, and I remember seeing Stephen O'Donnell, Richie Towell and Ronan sitting at a table having their pre-match meal, and turn to Stephen Kenny and say, that's what Ronan has done. And it's not that Stevie and Richie were enemies or anything like that, but there was sort of this, who's the biggest in the dressing room almost, because it's the captain, and Richie was scoring like 30 odd goals at the time. But then having some player who's a link between them all actually is what knits your whole squad together, and that's what was really important. Obviously, he was a half decent footballer as well, but it's things like that you don't know until you get the player into the dressing room and into the squad that you see.
Yeah, he's talking about you and giving you compliments on a level that would pertain to a future manager. Any interest in that front?
No, not so much. Like this year, I've been injured quite a bit, so I found myself on the sideline, and naturally, you just get drawn into the game, and you end up, because the squad at UCD is quite young, you can help them. You can help them just with information. And UCD, again, there's not many people at the ground, so your voice will carry. So like, Willie's the manager, but I might stand behind, like in the grass area behind the dugout, and you do get drawn into it. Never really thought I could see myself doing it, but you do get sucked in a little bit. Where I see myself, when it's all said and done, would probably be like in the business end of sport. That's why I'm going back to college and doing that. And I just feel like that could be where my strongest skill set is. I've always had an interest in not so much the coaching, never putting the cones down and things like that. Doing up sessions. Me and Joey O'Brien were Rovers under 15s coaches, and it was part of a really good group. There was Sam Cortis, Kevin Zeffy. It was a really talented group. Joe used to be sending me like templates of sessions for that what we'd be doing that evening, but I would be in work, and it was just never like Joe was obviously always going to go into coaching. He was just so passionate about it, had really high game knowledge. I was more, I was in work, I was happy doing what I was doing in that business side of things, even though it wasn't technically football, but I was, and still am continuing to learn in that trade for when the time is right. And you'd see now the more opportunities hopefully coming available in football that I'll step into something there when it's all done.
Okay, so is it like sporting director kind of half a little bit on
like
the
the
football side of
CEO
things?
roles now that are available. Like I love Shamrock Rovers. I'd love to one day go back and be involved with Shamrock Rovers when that time is. Who knows? But I don't think necessarily I'll be ready for that yet. I'm still playing anyway. But there's roles within clubs now. There's commercial director roles. There's definitely more money, more revenue, more of a business, more of an industry in League of Ireland than there's ever been. And I think that's where I potentially see myself. Yeah.
So Vinny, what about Tim then? You'd have managed against each other in a couple of situations.
Yeah, like we obviously had the Dundalk draw. There was an element of that.
Yeah.
You have to fight your corner a little bit. I think on sidelines, I think it's inevitably a clash. I mean, Stephen Kenny, for example, and John Coffey was their great clash for many years. But I used to be sent out because Stephen was such a nice fella. He'd say to me, "You go and start a row there." Me and John Coffey would be proper scrapping, and Stephen would be grand in the background. But with Tim, Tim was well able to look after himself. That's
Really,
for sure.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that true?
I'm all right. I'm
Yeah.
grand. No, you do. You say things on the sidelines and you probably react certain ways, and then afterwards you go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I wish I listened.
Did Vinny get under your skin?
It's Vinny.
Wait, but as managers, I
think we only had one game.
Okay, right.
We only had one game, I think.
Vinny used to fight with everyone.
Yeah, very, very prickly character, Vinny Perth.
But it was funny. No one knew I was assistant manager to Stephen Kenny for 9 years, but I fought with everybody, so that's just the way it went. But with Tim, there was a. We only went against each other once, I think, but there was enough in that once to last for a couple of years. But I genuinely think most of us are fine with it once you don't get personal. Like, I think that's the key to it.
I did get personal.
And Tim got personal that day.
What was said?
Oh, I don't know. We forget about it anyway. We're mates now.
Just about.
Yeah, you've no memory of what was said, no?
No, I don't.
No, fair
but
enough,
I just remember going, fuck him.
Yeah.
I didn't say that about John Caulfield, though.
He punched you.
Yeah, and I still didn't say
But there was
about-
always respect there between John, Stephen, even though there was just the rivalry. There was
and it's probably what's missing out of the league. I think the league is now, from a competitive point of view, as strong as it's ever been. I have to say, in terms of when you look at the strength all the way down and the full-timeness of it. I think now what's probably the only thing that's missing is that head-to-head over the last couple of years of two teams proper going at each other. Like the Dundalk/Cork hatred for them years was real. It was genuinely real.
But we had Duffer versus Bradley, to be fair, until he pulled the plug on Shells. That was really bubbling along.
Yeah, it was. It was on its way to becoming something, but Shells probably weren't. I know they won the league last year, but this year they weren't as close, and it probably didn't. But that was over a 3 or 4 year, 5 year period where there was proper hatreds between players, a lot of proper scraps. As I said, I was walking down the tunnel one time in Turner's Cross, and we were beating Cork on the day, and Stephen O'Donnell and Rory Higgins actually weren't playing, and they started a row with a Cork player, and it all kicked off. And for once, I wasn't involved in it, and John Caulfield just boxed me straight into the back of the head, like, and stood there going, "Come on!" Like, and I'm going. And next of all, everybody jumped in, and John got a yellow card, and he was well looked after, and all that stuff. But then we shook each other's hand at the end of the game, like, and it was fine. Yeah. And it's just, you probably wouldn't get away with that now in terms of there's so many cameras, so many people catch it on their phone and different things, and they would have had to punish John. But it was just, but there was that. That is probably the only thing I'd like to see. Two teams, somebody, and I also think it would make Shamrock Rovers better if somebody was there to push them a little bit further and challenge them.
Can I ask you then, when it comes to the Stephen Bradley versus Albert Riera thing last week, did that spill over, or was that all fair game when it comes to the comments and the barbs?
I think if you look at it as a neutral, you probably think, in one sense, both of them are wrong. Now, Albert Riera crossed the line then. He didn't do his homework in terms of what Stephen has had to put up with in the last 12 months. But I think there's an element, and I think as a manager, I think it's okay to be arrogant to a point. I think you've got to show a little bit. You've got to almost say things that you don't believe at times, if you know what I mean, or deep down you wouldn't say in another sort of arena. But you've got to, you're representing your 25, 26-man squad. You're representing 5,000-6,000 people that come and support you every week. So I think there's an element where both of them probably would take a few things back. As Tim said, we'd all take stuff back we said before. I'd be on the fence on both of them. I think both of them probably crossed the line at different stages.
Tim, what did you make of that last week?
I think, look, I had an experience on the A licence in Scotland. I done my A licence over in Scotland, and there was a Portuguese fella. And he's quite blunt in how he spoke to people, and I don't know what he said. He said something anyway, and the coach educator started hammering him. And he didn't mean what he said. Like, it was his third language. Like, English wasn't his first or second language. It was his third language. And I think when that was explained to the coach educator, it's like, well, it might sound a lot harsher, but they're the only words he sort of knows in English. So I don't know if the lad Riera's, the way he said it came across a lot worse than probably what he meant. And I didn't really see Brad's response. We just seen that your man sort of threw a hand out after the game, which is easy to do after he's won the game. I wonder if he would have been as forward if he had lost the game. But I think it's sort of you're trying to create something out of nothing there, like.
Yeah, for sure. Ronan,
Yeah, it was just, and it's a one-off game that where like when you have the natural rivalry of playing against each other 3-4 times a season, like it was with Stephen and John, you know, the players knew about it, everybody knew about it. There was a natural rivalry there for Rovers. Listen, they got Celtic again, you know, that was pot luck. They're probably not going to come across each other again, really. Like, I mean, the likelihood of that, yeah, could happen again in Europe, but, you know, could easily not happen. And I, again, reiterate what Vinny said, you know, even as a player, you'd love that kind of, we'd be nearly watching, you know, winding Vin up, you know, throughout the week. Oh, come on, Vin, what are you going to do this week, you know? And that was just part of the banter within the dressing room, and he'd just be teasing. It was Carter, was it? It was the assistant.
John Cotter was the assistant, yeah.
You know, so there was a good, and the players would feed off it as well. And I think Rovers have dominated for, obviously up until last year, but there hasn't been, definitely there was an element that spilled over a little bit between Damien and Stephen, who have always been very good friends. But I just think that's two ultra competitors, you know, two people that just want to win. And sometimes, you know, friendships go by the wayside. When you want to win, everything else stops. And a lot of winners are like that.
Do you miss the cut and thrust of what we're talking about there, getting head-butted or pushing the back of the head by other managers and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, no, I think ultimately I miss being on the training ground and being around people. And I spoke about this on Off the Ball before, and then people ring you thinking, are you all right? Like I said, I use the words, you end up very lonely. And I don't mean, I'm not lonely, I have enough to be doing in my life, but that bond that 24, 25 people have, and whether then you add that into the kit men, whoever groundsman, like the hardest part for anyone to stop playing football or coaching is coming away from that group. And it's really, really difficult. And like Tim's experience in that now, and the benefit he has is he's jumped into a new business, and that's ultimately, I'd imagine, that's keeping you busy. But as much as it's very hard to explain to someone unless you've been at, particularly as a player I wasn't, but as a coach, high level performers as well with a goal, whether that's a European goal, whether that's winning a league, and absolute 20 nutcases all in their own different way. It's so hard to lose that. Like, so hard at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, somebody's coming in bubbling, jokey, messy, setting up different things, and that's the bit you miss more than the sort of match night. The match night at times can be a stress.
But Vin, on that, I think your biggest skill set for me was that relationship and bond you had with the players. Like, I had only 2 years at Dundalk, but like the players would have had a better relationship, you know, in a sense of people could go to you quicker than going to Stephen. And I think that was your, like, a real, you know, talent of yours, that you could sympathise with players really well. Because Stephen maybe had his 11 or 12 players, and I know you were brilliant at maybe minding the other lads as well, keeping them on side because Stephen will eventually need them. But you would definitely have a closer bond to a group of players. I was only there 2 years, but you know, maybe that other assistant managers that I've had, you know, throughout my whole career.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part. You're known in this league as so you think about it like you're either known as a great sort of. You think of the managers in the league. Tim mentioned Kev, right? How important Kev was to him, but like you think of someone like. I won't mention names because just in case. What I mean is, you think of certain coaches as because he's a brilliant coach, but no one would have ever said Vinny was a brilliant coach at that Dundalk group. But Ronan's had to give me a compliment there, and that's. But the point is, but he wouldn't have said that because the environment at the time, that Dundalk team, wherever that lands in terms of one of the great teams of all time. I never say it's the best because I think there's a group of them, Shells, Under Fennelly, the current Rovers team, particularly the 2021 side is up there. Remember the great Pats team under Brian Kerr, Pat Dolan, all of them. You could argue who was the best, and it's a great argument. But I think there's a skill set. What we did was very organic in many ways. It was almost, and Stephen wouldn't like me saying this but it was almost off the cuff, that group at times. There was method in the madness. There was stuff that, as years go on, players have said to me, "Oh, I didn't know you knew that." There was the marrying of we had a good core of people, say, that went through UCD, and they were very educated and understood stuff. And you also had a couple of townies who any townies you work with from inner city, they're brilliant. But if you mix them in the right environment, then they just flourish again and they go on. And you don't let people in that sidetrack them. So there was lots of little stuff like that going on in the background that the players wouldn't see. But I think
again, I'd say that was an easy group, or an easy enough group to manage.
Yeah.
Just because it was so self-driven and it was didn't have many injuries, so like.
And I think you look at the modern fitness levels of our league now.
We're ahead of the curve in regards to fitness.
And I think that group set the standard that other teams went, well, like there's a thing of when we went in, stood in the tunnel, anyone that's ever been in Oriel, there's a steel shed that comes out and it's still there and it's still steel and it's still rusting. But I used to get the lads to bang it, a couple of them to bang the thing, because it was almost we're intimidating people. They had the big chest, big muscles, and there was an element of that where you go, this is us. So there was that element to the group, and then all of a sudden everyone else had a strength and conditioning coach. Everyone else got bigger, and then it got harder, and you were looking to do something a bit different.
I came back in 2014, I think it was, from Scotland, and my missus wouldn't know anything about football, but watching the League of Ireland, she actually said the only team that looks like a football team is actually Dundalk. They actually look physically like a football team. I suppose that she would have been probably used to watching over in Scotland or whatever, so. And it was probably the case at the time. You were miles ahead of it with the fitness and strength and conditioning.
Like we also had messers as well. Like, and there was nights out that Ronan didn't know we knew we had. And I always say the art of a good manager is pretending you don't hear stuff and pretending you don't know what goes on. Like I knew there were a fall now of nightclubs in Dundalk at certain times. But when you've got a good group, they pick the right moments to do that. They pick the right sort of elements to that. I remember one night I think we were down in Villamora or something like that, and Ronan rang me and says like, so we were allowed out till 12 o'clock, the bus was picking us up, and it was Ronan and Stephen O'Donnell on the phone. He's like, Vinny, can we stay out till 1 o'clock? And I'm going, hold on 1 sec. So I went down the corner and I'm going, Finn, I'm talking to him.
I think he said, Vinny, we're not coming back.
Yeah, but I was like, I'm talking to him, just relax, I'll get him to make sure, we'll get out till 2 o'clock. I have him. The gaffer, don't worry about a Finner. Tap on the shoulder. Is this me you're talking about? So Stephen had heard everything, but ultimately the lads stayed out till 2, 3, and the rest. So they had mad moments, but it was so easy to get that group back on the bike and back because they did it themselves. And there was certain drivers within it.
Just one other thing I wanted to ask you before we go to that break, just about the idea of how you're defined as managers now, as like the two of you, because I kind of feel that in football in particular, we define a manager by how something ends up. And I know, Vinny, you've spent time in rugby setups, and the idea of quote-unquote failure is something that's embraced in the rugby community a bit more than it is in football.
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with accepting that most people in the league would probably would say I failed. So I'm okay with that. And that's fine. The perception of me, as I said, wouldn't be huge in the football circles in terms of coaching ability and what I was able to do as a manager, because I just simply took over Stephen Kenny's team, and that's all. And then ultimately I ran that into the ground, and I'm okay with that. But I think, and I haven't looked to go. I've met one club since I came out. I've spoken to one or two others. I was offered 2 League of Ireland jobs, one in First Division, one in Premier, and I wasn't interested in them. I haven't looked to go back in, but I think if I did go back in, I would be better as a result of what went wrong. I think if, and I'm doing it live, if I was to give Tim advice, it would be go back in if you can, because if you were here, you're there. I think what you learn when you come out of it, and when you technically fail, for want of a better word, or you lose your job, I think it makes you so much better. But I think there's blinkers. We've got, what people don't realise is this league is so small. We all, like me and Tim would have clashed, but ultimately it's like we have a point later on. You're sound. You're you know, it's so ridiculous what goes on in the politics, and it's such a small league that people make and form views of people so easily. So it is difficult when you come out, as I said, but you've got to be comfortable with it. But I think people are better by failing. I genuinely think that.
Tim?
Yes, it's relative to what success is. Kev Doherty doesn't win out this year or doesn't get to Europe. He still had an unbelievably successful season. Where if Bradford didn't win out this year, and it wouldn't be a successful season. So success can be defined in so many ways. You'll see John Russell at the minute over at Sligo was bottom of the league in the summer. He's they're second bottom now. He's got the massive amount of points swing there to get them where they are. But every season, Rustler seems to players off the back of him get moves across the water or to Shamrock Rovers or Pats or wherever else. So that's success as well, developing players. And I think if you're trying to base someone on successes and winning trophies, you have to really look at the broader picture of what they're actually working with, budgets and stuff like that. I think the story of Shells winning the league last year with Duffer was incredible because they didn't have the resources of some of the other teams in the league. It's why Leicester winning the Premier League that time, and was it 2013 or whatever it was a massive achievement because they were so far off what the other clubs had. So success has to be sort of a broader spectrum of just what you win. And once I feel if I can still help a club and players, all the time the relationship I have, especially with the younger players, now one's over Championship in England and beyond, I get phone calls and ask, what do you think of this? What about this advice and whatever else? And I see that as a success that 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, this lad's still ringing me asking for my advice because they value it.
Ronan, last one to you. Are Rovers going to complete a double in about 10 days' time?
I mean, yeah, listen, cup finals, anything can happen. You know, Cork City bring a huge travelling support. Listen, yeah, you expect Rovers with the talent they have in the dressing room, but they've got a game in Athens 3 days previously. Not going to be easy that. Then you're coming home, the manager's had to juggle his team around. I think they've lost 5 in a row. So, I mean, if you're a Cork City player, it's probably, you know, they've still got another 2 tough league games to go. They've got to go to Athens. As a Cork City player, you're probably thinking, yeah, if for any time we can, you know, go and beat Shamrock Rovers in a cup final, it will be in, you know, 2 weeks' time. But that being said, you look at Rovers' squad, you look at the quality Stephen has on the bench. You know, you would assume that Stephen would put out an 11 that he wants that double. So that may affect his team that he plays on the Thursday night. I know we missed out on a double a few years ago. You know, a lot of great teams are remembered for doubles. They'll get over the line in the league, no doubt. But yeah, listen, I would.
Ronan, you jumped off a plane you played Zenit St. Petersburg on a Thursday night and went to a cup final 2 or 3 days later.
It's a younger team, though.
Yeah, but a younger team. So do you think there's an element of that brings? So say you said the cup final was an 80-20 for in favour of Rovers, maybe 70-30 in terms of, you know.
Yeah, I think there's natural fatigue. You know, you look at the Rovers group, probably a little bit older than the group that we had. I think yourself and Stephen would have probably picked, I don't know, was it the same 11?
No, it's a couple of changes.
Wouldn't have been much. I would assume if Stephen, you know, I think he'll make quite a few changes between the game between AK and Sunday against Cork. I think he'll really target the game against Cork. He'll want to, you know, after the defeat that in 2020 during COVID, that was an opportunity for us to do the double. We didn't. He'll want that double.
Speaking of teams who've done a historic double, we are going to be joined by a couple of the Athlone Town contingent in the second half. We're going to leave you off for 10-15 minutes to get a drink to go to the bathroom, but in the meantime, give it up for Tim Clancy and Ronan Finn. Vinny's going to stay with us for the second half as well. We'll chat to you in a few minutes. Thank you. Welcome back. Congratulations to Athlone, everyone.
How
double
good
champions.
Is it to do the double? And Ronan Finn has never done the double. I don't Oh, he has, he said, sorry.
An absolutely amazing achievement that we're going to celebrate over the course of the next little while. We have Chloe Singleton and Kayleigh Shine on stage with us. Folks, you're very welcome. Have you been in Athlone for the last couple of weeks? Has the party just been in the Midlands, or have you managed to get up here for a couple of nights as well?
Just Athlone, and
Yeah.
I think a few of the girls went down to Galway. Some of us weren't able, but yeah, they carried on the celebrations in Galway.
Yeah, it's been a heavy week now, in fairness. It's kind of all amalgamated into the one day. We're kind of back on planet Earth now the last 2 days. But
Right.
it's been a great week, in fairness, and we've really enjoyed it.
Which is the better feeling to win? Like the cup, given it's a very defined one game, one occasion, or actually is there a satisfaction to the build-up of the league?
I think it has to be the league.
Okay.
Because it's a very tough, long year. And to win the league, it just means you're the overall champions. On a cup day, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? And it's a cup tie every couple of weeks. Look, the FAI Cup, we love winning it, and we think it's our cup, and we want to go and thrive for it every year. But overall, like, the league is always a sweet one to win, and it means a lot more, in my opinion, anyways.
Yeah, what do you reckon?
Kind of disagree. Because
Shock! What a shock! She disagrees with me.
yeah, I suppose the league is a nice one, but for this year we kind of knew we wanted 2 or 3 games left to go in the season. So yeah, the build up to that was nice, but I think on the day with the crowd that the cup brings out, it's a nice feeling to win the FAI Cup. But you know, people can plan flights. You know, we have a lot of Americans on the team. Their family can plan flights to come over and things like that. So it really is a good gathering for the cup final.
This is the biggest first world problem of a discussion ever. Which do you prefer, winning, or what's the?
What would you prefer?
Well, the cup, you're right, the league is, as a coach or a player, is obviously special, but the cup is a real sense of occasion. And particularly the way it's done now, to be fair to the FEI, in terms of both men's and women's, it is a special event, and I think the cup always feels better for you. It's almost something for your family, where the league is like, just leave us alone now, we're going to celebrate with our friends, where cup is always more of a
Like
family
a day out,
occasion.
yeah.
Did you talk about this at the start of the season, Kayleigh? Winning both trophies.
Yeah, I suppose we've won both of them individually each year, but I suppose the main kind of prize would be to do the double, and that's kind of what we had our sights on this year, and really put our heads down and kind of came together as a team and realised, yeah, look, we've won both. We know what the feeling is like for both, but not together. So yeah, it was definitely something we had our eyes set on this year.
And where does that come from? Sorry, does that come within the dressing room? Because obviously there's been a change of manager within that season. But you as players are driven for a double, or is it something like a goal setting at the start of the season?
Yeah, 100%. It's a team full of strong women that just want to win, and that's all that's in our dressing room. Really, is just mindsets to win. And we kind of explained to everyone, you know, we've won the league, we've won the cup, we haven't done them both together, so why not go out now this year and do the both? You know, it's going to be tough. We had the campaign in Champions League as well, so we kind of proved that we were one of the better teams, I suppose, in the league this year and last year. So to go out and kind of prove it again and do the doubles, you know, we hadn't done that before, and especially in Athlone in men's or women. So yeah, to do the both.
I think next year now our aim is the triple. So
Yeah.
get the Isle Island Cup on that.
and the
as well.
President's Cup, we have to do 4.
Oh, and the President's Cup, yeah.
And Champions League, there's 5.
Champions League as well, of course. Kayleigh, you're also on the PFAI Team of the Year. It's your first time making it.
Woo!
Yeah, I think that deserves a round of applause. I mean, you can be honest with us here. Do you also set that sort of goal at the start of the year, like in terms of individual accolades?
No, to be honest, my mum kept me very humbled throughout my whole childhood. So I was always, if I had a good game, I was always told it wasn't good enough. So I was always kind of looking for more and more. But no, I wouldn't really look at myself personally. You know, that's all I wanted sitting right in front of me there, and we've done that. So to get on Team of the Year this year it's just a bonus and a personal bonus, and I suppose kind of helps me to reflect a little bit. You know, we only conceded 10 goals this year in the league. So that just shows how good our back four are and how it starts from Kelly Brady up top all the way back to Megan Plashko. So yeah, no, it's not just you know, for myself. It's for the whole team. We've 5, I think, other players in it. So yeah, it's a team effort, and everyone helps each other to progress into those positions.
I also think, like, the last few years that I've played with Kayleigh, I think she's just been robbed of this award, and like, for being her teammate the last couple of years, it's always very nice to see 5 players within our team getting recognised, and I think the recognition is truly deserved. And I know Kayleigh's very hard on herself, and I just think this recognition is very much so deserved. Anyone who watches the league, watches us, watches Kayleigh from day dot when she started with Athlone. I just think it's a recognition that you really do deserve, and bravo to you for making that far.
Yeah, congratulations, Kayleigh, on that. Can I ask Chloe, do you get a medal for winning the league this season? I know it's an awkward question to ask.
I've played 5 minutes, mind you. Look, it's a bit of a surreal year. I got a medal. I don't feel like I deserve it. I don't know where it is. My mum keeps the medals for me. She's like, "Where's your medal?" She's more obsessed with the medals than I am. But yeah, look, it's been a bit of a strange year for myself. Winning the league was probably the last year and a half. It's a bit anticlimactic from my perspective, because obviously I didn't have my part to play as much as the rest of the girls. But look, I'm still involved. I wanted to keep myself involved through everything. I turned up for all the sessions. I like, as much as maybe people like injured players, there's a bit of a stigma. Sometimes they're wanted, sometimes they're not wanted. But I made sure, even if I wasn't wanted, I was sticking around and I was staying around. So yeah, look, it was a bit anticlimactic winning the league, and going back to winning the cup, like that was probably a more of a special occasion in terms of that scenario. But yeah, look, it is what it is, and I just hope that next year we can do it again and I can enjoy it probably a bit more intense, have my emotions a bit more intense, because yeah, it was a strange feeling this year.
And how difficult is it to watch your teammates do what they do and not feel almost jealous or envious of?
Yeah, like I've had this battle in my head the last while over how do I feel about it, and yeah, there is that aspect of envy, and you're almost jealous of the girls going out onto the pitch and having the opportunity to play. But it would have been a lot harder if we didn't win, and I think that would have been a more of a bitter pill to swallow. Is if we weren't so successful, I wouldn't have Europe to look forward to next year. I wouldn't have the celebrations with the girls. We wouldn't have made these memories. So that's kind of, I suppose, the positive I take out of it. And the girls have been amazing all year. They've been so strong in terms of...
But you didn't know that when you were doing the hard yards, that you were ultimately going to win a league or win a cup. So, like, that injury went on and on and on for you. It ended up, how long in the end? 16 months?
14 months.
14 months.
Yeah.
So, did you ever go, I've had enough of this? What's the point?
Yeah, there was definitely stages where you feel like throwing the towel in. But I think the girls keep me motivated in how successful they've been. Like, we've one loss in the league, I think. The other losses are in the All-Ireland Cup, which is an amazing season, and fair play to the girls. But yeah, there's times where you're getting frustrated with yourself, you're not seeing any progress, and you're like, what am I doing this for? I'm not seeing any end goal. But when the girls turn around, and I know you're saying we didn't know if we'd win the league, it was kind of touch and go for a while, even with the cup. I always had the belief that the girls would do well. Even if they didn't do well, I always wanted to come back. There's no denying I wanted to come back. It was just a case of when and how. And I suppose in my own innate self, my personal goal was just to get back playing and get back enjoying it, whenever that may be. Unfortunately, it was longer than I anticipated, but I got there in the end, and we've 2 trophies as well to show for it.
It might be a good one to ask you about, Kayleigh. What was Chloe's role in the team this year when she wasn't on the pitch?
Well, to be fair, when we had Chloe before that, Chloe's an unbelievable player. Probably one of the best players I've played with and against. You don't want to come against Chloe either, the speed of her. But no, it was a big loss. When we lost Chloe, it was in the Shelburne game, and I suppose it was kind of the year that decided whether or not we won the league or not. And it was when Chloe went down for that injury. The game played on or whatever, and I just remember looking over while the game was still on, and just seeing her ankle or whatever. But when Chloe went off in the ambulance, I think it kind of really brought the team together. We all kind of stuck together and said, look, we have to do this for Chloe now, and she wouldn't want us to lose. We're coming up against...
I'm still here, I'm alive.
No, I know.
Haven't died.
Yeah, I would have felt like you did there for about 14 months. But yeah, no, it was... I think we really stuck together, and I suppose... When Chloe went off, Shelburne scored a goal literally 2 minutes after she was off the pitch, and we were like, oh, great, here we go now.
Chloe's fault.
All Chloe's fault, yeah, exactly. And then we ended up coming back winning, I think it was 2-1 in the end. So, yeah, it was really good, I think, as a team. We really stuck together, kind of trying to push out the league as long as possible, we were hoping Chloe would be here for the Champions League this year, but unfortunately she couldn't. But that's why we had to go and do it all over again, and the opportunity next year.
And genuinely, Chloe is still alive, right? So, but missing out in the Champions League, how like, not to, it's coming back next year, thankfully, touch wood. But in terms of how like that has to be a goal of every player. Like, and people don't realize like whether it's the men's game, women's game, it's still the Champions League. People say, you know, lucky enough to win a game and it's the first qualifying round, but it's still the Champions League, the same competition that a few months later, whether it's Real Madrid and PSG are playing in. That must have been so difficult.
Yeah, it was. And like initially I thought I'd be back for it, and that's probably what hit harder. Was I had aimed to be back for it, and then I obviously wasn't, and the line was much longer than I anticipated. But I think what hurt the most was it was obviously our first year hosting Champions League. We were hosting as well, which was another sucker punch. But at the end of the second game, I'll never forget walking around with the girls. We had a successful tournament, and I just got so emotional. And I wasn't upset, I wasn't angry. Like, it was just pure raw emotion of seeing the crowd, seeing everyone who came to support us. It was a packed stadium. Like, it's women's football, it's very rare we get a packed stadium. And to see everyone who came and supported us, and I was just gutted that I couldn't be a part of it. I'm from Athlone, it would have meant a lot to me. But yeah, it was a bitter pill to swallow, but I suppose it probably gave me a bit more of a drive to get back onto the pitch and work at that little bit harder in terms of my rehab. And the first thing Maddie Gibson turned around and said to me down in Cork when we officially won the league is, "We've got Europe for you next year." And look, that was a big thing for me, and I'm just so grateful that the girls went and did it again this year, that they won the league. And touch wood, like you said, I do get the opportunity next year, and I hope we're hosting, because it was some crack with the crowd. Like, it's an amazing feeling to be playing in front of a home crowd, and myself and Kayleigh are both from Athlone, and it means that bit more when you're it's your hometown, and all of those emotions come into play. But yeah, of course, it was probably the hardest part of the injury, but look, the girls did it again, and I'm just grateful to hopefully get the opportunity next year.
It's an amazing story because of it being Athlone, really, like that you've gone and actually taken over the Shelburnes or the Peamounts, and instead of it being a Dublin-centric league, it's not only moved around the country, you've actually got a stranglehold on dominating the women's game in this country from Athlone. Like, it's worth discussing that a little bit, like, Kayleigh, from your perspective, when you're growing up playing football, do you realise that there's like a very strong generation of footballers around your same age, and that Athlone would provide a future of actually being able to stay at home and have national success?
No, I suppose when I was growing up, I was just playing with a local league. You know, I didn't actually know much. I was more of a ga-head than a football player, I suppose. But kind of growing up, then Athlone came about for women's. You know, it was just solely men's team, and then the women's team came about, but it wasn't National League standard. It was just kind of Sunday League kind of football at the time. And then kind of once we got a taste, it was 2020 when we first came into the Women's Premier Division. And you kind of just realised then we were bottom of the table every year, and you know, we weren't competing for any cups or anything like that. But you kind of realised, you know, it was all about Dublin. It was all in the Dublin area. You know, it's the same teams over again. It was Shelburne, Peamount, things like that. They were constantly winning. So I suppose for ourselves, I suppose we should kind of praise ourselves a little bit. You know, bringing football to the sticks really is kind of what we're considered as. Bringing football back. So yeah, no, it's great. And we especially, there's a lot of younger fans now coming to the games and kind of realising, you know, this could be them. We're just kind of the building blocks at the moment. Yeah. We're not there at the moment. But yeah, I just hope one day that, you know, people from Athlone, and you know, they'll come to Athlone. It's the centre of Ireland, you know, and rather going up to Dublin or anything like that, it's right in the middle. To maybe bring more players in, more local players, things like that. But I think we're definitely the building blocks for something bigger that will happen in Athlone.
And that's the key, on, is that like so much of football in this country is Dublin centric, that like I spent 8-9 years as a player in Longford, but it was always, we were lucky enough that rivalry with Athlone is there as well. Oh, don't get me wrong, but you look across and Athlone have still continued to struggle. Developing football is such a hotbed to a point, and we aren't able to get the people from the next level up. And what the girls have done is potentially, and only potentially, is giving people open the window for all the other young girls to go, we can have national success here. And that's why the importance of the funding from the government is, there's a view that's aimed at League of Ireland academies, as in the men's side of the game or the boys' side of the game. It's not. It's targeted at the League of Ireland clubs all of them at the start, and it's the onus on them is to push and build on, and Athlone have to build on what they've done. Has to become the norm for 14, 15, 16-year-old girls targeting League of Ireland football. And it's the same in the men's game, but it's so important that we get it right in the women's side of the game, that too many girls are being left behind at 14, 15 and leaving the game. And it's just not good enough, and we have to change it, and we have to give the FEI, particularly the League of Ireland department, huge credit for the funding they've got. Now we've got to keep pressure on the League of Ireland clubs to spend it correctly and build on what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, like you said, obviously our academy, when you look at the men's and the women's, there's obviously a lot more facilities and lot more age groups for the boys than the girls. Like we have, I think it's like under 10s, 11s and 12s maybe in around for the girls, and they train once every Sunday, and then you've nothing until under 17 women. And then next year they're getting rid of the under 19s and putting in under 23s, where there's just a massive gap from, first of all, under 10s to under 17s. I mean, that's just unheard of in academies. And then you've got from under 17s to under 23s. There's just too much of a gap where a lot of the girls won't be ready. And look, I know next year they're probably looking at it being maybe a B team in our league, the under 23s, but it's just too big a gap. Like last year from under 19s to senior, and they think now, right, we'll put in an under 23s, this will fix the problem, but it doesn't really fix the problem. And like you said, the funding that's going in now, hopefully, like myself and Kayleigh speaking earlier, like we'd like to see, obviously we've got our under 10s, 11s, 12s, and then hopefully an under 15s for them to strive to. And these under 10s now, maybe in a few years when the under 15s is paved, they will be the next generation for that academy. But at the moment, it's just not there. And you look at the Irish women's team last night, like they win, and it's a huge boost for our platform, for women's football in general in Ireland. And it's about building those platforms for the younger generation. Like a lot of our crowds are younger girls, and to them we're their heroes. But we're just normal people, like at the end of the day. But growing up, like we didn't have that. We didn't have an Athlone town to look up to. We didn't have any of that. Like both of us played for Bailamullia. It's our grassroots club, and
I think that's why football is kind of, I suppose, was lacking in Athlone for a while. Like we're the only two local girls there now at the moment. Like there was nobody ever to look up to, so Gaelic kind of took over.
Yeah.
In that sense, that a lot of girls who would have been good footballers went to play Gaelic because there was nothing there for them. So I think we've definitely raised the bar now to realise like you actually can do something now with football, soccer. But like Chloe was saying, you have 10s, 11s and 12s that come in on a Sunday. Like one day a week is not enough. Do you know, if we want players to progress into Irish teams, do you know, there is a lack, I suppose, compared to the Dublin teams. They're not getting that, the funding, first of all, of course, but the training, like you go into, I know when I played with Bailamullia, there was never heard of a coaching badge. It was parents coming in out of goodwill just to help the local community, which is good, and I suppose, you know, you do appreciate it, but we need more people with more coaching in the area to kind of get behind the grassroots clubs that can then progress them on into League of Ireland clubs. I think that's...
So sorry, what soccer were you playing in your early teens then, after you finished up with under 12s? There's obviously that gap that you described there. Who were you playing
Well,
with?
we both were with our grassroots club, Bailamullia,
Okay.
but there's no, like, it's just
There's no League of Ireland football
there's
available
nothing
to
to
you.
strive for. Like, when I was playing, I played with Bailamullia, then there's the Gaynor Cup, and when I was playing, there was an under 14 and under 16. You go down to the Gaynor Cup, you play in the hopes of maybe getting scouted, and then I joined Peamount from that, but it was just Summer League.
Right.
So it was Summer League I was playing, and then the Women's National League was coming into form. It was there. I was a bit young for it at the time, and then after I had a stint at Peamount, I went to Galway, and that's where my League of Ireland, it was the Women's National League back then, that's when my kind of stint in the LOI, I suppose, started. But I'd never heard of it before any of that. Like, I didn't know, like, you've young kids coming to the games now, we're supporting Athlone Town in the League of Ireland. Like, it was unheard of. Like, it just didn't really exist.
So
when I
how
was
many
growing
of
up.
your under 11s, 12 teams locally would still be playing, them girls would still be playing soccer?
As in, how many
From
teams
our
have we
age.
How
got?
many, many of your teammates would still be playing soccer?
Well, I suppose when I joined Athlone, I came from Bailamullia, and there was about 8 to 10 girls maybe that went with me, and none of them are playing now.
That's just that we're losing generations and generations. You've just said this is what the girls did last night has to be a platform. And we're saying that for so long, where, and you also said we're just two normal girls. Well, what having them 2 trophies mean you're not normal. You're a pinnacle of Irish soccer, to be clear. But it has to be a building block. Like these two have to be an example for everybody in the Midlands, not just Athlone, in Longford. They have to be on the billboards. They have to be promoted. We have to, just for socially, first of all, getting girls out and playing soccer and giving them facilities. So when the lights go out at 4:45 now around the whole country, we can't go, oh, thanks, you don't play soccer now because there's nowhere to go. So we need facilities, and then we need the coaches. And as I said, the FAI have put a certain structure in, but it's up to clubs to build on that. And we've got to put pressure on people that this isn't 2 people from a club. It has to be 6 and 8 over the next few years. And then we build, and then we become an industry, because then they can chase full-time football as well, as opposed to so many people working as well in the women's game. We've got to fix it, and we've got to be really strong. And these two have to be, sorry, these two is the wrong language. These have to be the beacon.
How is the part-time professionalism? Is that something that you think is a satisfying outcome in the medium term, or do we need to get to full-time professionalism pretty quickly?
For me, I'd like to get to full-time professionalism, because like the pull that England has is it's full-time and it's professional, and that's why we're losing a lot of talented players. And it's frustrating because we're trying to raise the standard here in Ireland, but then you've got the top players getting scouted over to clubs in England, and look, they're going to go like if it's full-time football. And yeah, look, that's probably our aim. And I think Athlone, in just speaking from a club perspective, like I think that's what they're striving for in the next couple of years, for our players. Just yeah, we'd love the league to be a full-time environment, but from our perspective, with the new lads who have come in this year, they've big plans. And look, you can have a plan, but if we want to see those plans come into terms. But for me, yeah, like I would love to play full-time professional football in Ireland. Like, yeah, you have the pull to go to England, but I don't want to go to England. Like, I would want to be playing for Athlone in a full-time environment. Like, it's not something right now. I want to get back playing and enjoying it. But in the long run, yeah, I would like. I don't know if it's a short term. If it probably isn't going to happen in my lifetime of football. I'd like it to, but it probably won't. But yeah, they're the building blocks for the next generation, is to have a full-time environment of professional football in your home country, because we've a lot of girls that have to emigrate, they have to leave to play what they love. And you're looking at the Premier Division, and that's full-time football for the men. Do you know what I mean? So why can't we get to a stage? Because we're 2 full-time workers. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of our players are either in college, school, or work full-time. So it's a lot on us to, you know, you're giving up work days, you're giving up college days, you're giving up a lot to play the sport you love. But we do it because we love it. We wouldn't sit back and think, Jesus, why am I giving this up? Like, that's what we know. And I don't know if this is the right comment to say, but if you turn around and ask the professional lads to do that, they look at you with 10 heads, being like, geez, I'm not doing that. Do you know, that kind of way? And that's the difference at the moment, unfortunately, that we have. But look, it probably mightn't be a short-term fix, but that's an ideal world.
What about when it comes to getting players from the domestic league into the national team? Is there still a bit of a disconnect there, Kayleigh, in terms of standard, or do you think some players have been unfairly looked over the past couple of seasons?
For the international team?
Yeah.
I definitely think there is quality in this league to get into that international stage, but I suppose it's coming down and looking at the games. Like, you know, you might hear some comments or things like that from games, and you're kind of wondering, have you watched the game at all? You know, we've done it now 2 years in a row. We have the league trophy there, and we had Kelly Brady in at a training camp in the space of 2 years, and there's a lot of girls, Irish girls on the team that are being well overlooked, in my opinion, and that's just speaking for my own team alone. There's a lot of good talent in this league, and it's definitely growing. And I suppose we're kind of going overseas the minute there's any injuries within the Irish team or anything like that, kind of looking who's doing full time, and it probably is the full time that's the difference there. Do you know, full time football, that can be a difference between 2 teams, and we noticed that when we went to Champions League that that was the 1 inch that we were kind of off by, not by talent, not by quality. You know, fitness and everything, it's all there. It's probably just the full time.
Is it being international a must now at this stage, do you think, or certainly a national team based around home-based players to give them a hand?
100%. There was a development squad, I suppose, that was there, and I think it was around March or that. I was in on it myself, and you kind of seen the quality. You know, we were playing against the under-19s team, I suppose, just for like a little challenge game, but coming in and just playing with good players around the league who aren't in that setup yet, but it's definitely a building block, but there needs to be more of them. We haven't heard anything about it since March, so there's definitely, again, that gap in Irish football that something's not being provided for players to grow. Rather, you know, we have to look to England, we have to look at going abroad, but it shouldn't have to be like that. It should be Ireland trying to grow their own type of league here, that players maybe want to come to Ireland. Athlone.
Why do you think there's a block to that? You've only met once in the last 12 months, is it? That sort of B team?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. You know, we were told there would probably be another one in October, and it just hasn't come about yet. But I suppose it's probably not the wisest thing to say now, but like you look at the Irish team now, and you know there's a few older players now. You know, it's not as young as a team as you might see maybe against like Spain or Portugal or things like that. You know, they do have good academies that bring up young players, but I feel like there's probably just that gap maybe at the moment in Irish football, because the quality is definitely there, but definitely just there just needs to be a bit
There's
of
no
improvement.
pathway,
Yeah.
like in Irish football, like what we touched on, and when you compare us to Spanish football associations and Portuguese, like they all have pathways for kids from being tots all the way up, whereas that's the difference in terms of, but like your question in relation to why hasn't there been a camp, that's a great question, and I wish I had the answer, because nobody knows. It's probably an unknown answer, and only people in the FEI can tell you that. But look, I just think a lot of our girls are going abroad because they're not getting recognised, and unless they get recognised, they'll stay. And
They have to go abroad to be
to be
recognised.
recognised, yeah, unfortunately.
When it happened this season that there was a bit of turbulence with the management, it's not the first time you've gone through this. Obviously, Kieran Kilduff last season, who you would have had a lot of time for, moves on to the men's side of the game shortly after. Chloe, as someone who's maybe not playing, not on the pitch week in, week out, when the whole Colin Fortune thing is going down, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, I could be the next manager here?
Definitely not. Jesus, I was.
No one would listen to her.
Well, Kayleigh wouldn't. I'd sack her anyways, first of all. No, yeah, look, when Colin stepped away, I think it was a bit of a shock to everyone, given how successful we were going, and given the way we were, I think, we just came home from a European campaign, or we had one to look forward
before
to.
Glasgow.
Just before Glasgow, yeah. So yeah, it was a shock to the camp, obviously. We didn't expect. You always hear of managers leaving when things are going the other way, unfortunately. But look, things were going really well in terms of we were winning, we were really successful. But from our perspective, it didn't change anything in camp. There was a quick turnaround. John obviously took over. It was a couple of days before, I think it was a day or two, when that was announced. Like the club were fast on it. They knew we needed a good manager pretty soon, just given all the games we had upcoming. But yeah, internally it didn't really ruffle any feathers. It didn't really disturb the camp. The girls knew we had another half of a season to go, and yeah, look, they just wanted to put their heads down. No matter who came in or who was over the management side of things, the girls knew what their job was. And when John came in fairness to him, like he took it on with two hands, and I think he stepped up to the mark really well. He knew he couldn't change anything, because what could you change in such a successful team? But we were speaking about this on the way up. I think it'll be interesting to see how John is now next year. So he came in Mr. Nice Guy, so we'll have to see how he really is next year. I always say he's too positive. Like, I'm a negative Nancy. Anyone who knows me, I'm just such a negative person. But he is so positive. Like, I love it. It's great. I can't wait to see his negative side now next year.
I coached John for a year, so
Did
if you
you?
need any door.
So will you give me some information? Yeah, please.
Give it to all of us here, Vinny.
We call him Johnny Bravo. He's the face of Got to Be Glued, the hairspray.
and about John, like this is not a compliment, but it is to him. If he was a chocolate bar, he'd eat himself out.
Oh, 100%.
But he'd be comfortable with that himself. Like, he'd be okay with that.
You'd say that to his face.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
He'd love you saying that as
Yeah,
well.
that's what I
the
mean.
thing.
He'd love it. So, but just he is such a positive guy that it was obviously the timing of it was in between the Glasgow game or just before it, and then the timing of someone coming in had to be positive. And probably the secret, you touched on it. I didn't know that, but actually not trying to change too much because
Yeah.
he's in a good position. That's the mistake some managers do: jump in and try to put their own stamp on it. But he left you at it.
Yeah, kind of like what Chloe said. He kind of came in as the nice guy, and I suppose that's all he kind of was. He was putting out an 11 and just being the nice guy. But yeah, next year it'll be interesting to see. You know, he's going to want to put his own kind of stamp and playing on things, which is fair enough. But yeah, we'll see when that time comes.
So what is the plan for the next little while with the pieces of bling here? Is there another bit of touring to be done with it, or is it the celebration officially over at this point? Pre-season is coming.
Probably clean them. To
All
be
right.
honest.
Yeah, you don't want to know what that cup has been through.
Yeah.
And what it's used for. I think Kelly Brady eats her cereal out of it every
Right.
morning.
Dead right.
But a lot of our girls have gone home. Obviously, we have a lot of American girls, and they're all gone home, unfortunately, except for Kelly and Maddie. We can't get rid of them too. They're like they're alone to the bone now. They think they're citizens. But no, like the girls will go home, and then a few of them will come back for the awards. I think that'll probably be the next celebration. Then is the awards and celebrating
them.
all of the individual awards that the girls deserve. But for me, I think I'm done celebrating. I've had enough now this week. It's been a heavy week, and
You had 16 months off anyway.
14.
Yeah,
I keep saying
some nerve you had coming out celebrating.
I know I didn't deserve to celebrate, did I?
I know. We'll probably have to bring them out to a few of the schools. The girls went around, forgot the trophies, weirdly enough, after all the celebrating. So probably have to do a round again and actually bring the trophies this time.
Well, we really appreciate you bringing them both to us here in the Sugar Club this evening. It's been great catching up with you as well. Kayleigh Shine and Chloe Singleton. Give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And to the rest of our guests tonight, Vinny, thank you very much for being with us this evening. We had Ronan Finn, we had Tim Clancy with us. A big thank you to Rockshore, who've been sponsoring all of our League of Ireland content throughout the season as well. Big thank you to everybody here in the Sugar Club, and thank you very much for coming out this evening. 23 minutes gone in the Shamrock Rovers game. We'll let you go and root against them for the rest of the evening. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.